China is simply not as far ahead as they claim it to be. The fact that you can topple a pillar with just 2 people. And this is one of their top products, electric cars. They claim it's so ahead of the rest. An intelligent, self-driving model, well, didn't recognize that there was a height barrier in front of it, rammed straight through and crashed into the woods.
哎呦，飞这么远！车主说不要再相信智驾了啊！智驾，这个车就是自动驾驶，然后想接管的时候已经来不及了。
And this is a BYD Zhang, a car that started to self-burn. My point is that China today is not as perfect, as ahead, as so futuristic, some alien civilization from the distant universe that is being portrayed online. What they've done is simply hide the ugly, overexpose the so-called beautiful, and in turn attempt to gain credibility and legitimacy for its regime. No country is perfect, but the sinister motives of the CCP is to justify its ruling and its power through these so-called beautification and propaganda videos. This is the Shanghai subway. A subway cart randomly went dark while it's still traveling, and people say that they suddenly smelled something burning, and it just shut down.
我闻到一股焦味，烧焦的味道。
对啊，对，有味道，好臭啊！
Later, this cart was put out of operation, and people obviously didn't get harmed. But my point is, this still happens in China. It doesn't mean that like all of their transit system is perfect, just as the high-speed rail can do this. This was recently filmed in northern China. Now, obviously, it's not a built-in massage function because no train carts do that, but it is the fact that these are not the perfect trains that the CCP propagandists would have you believe that when you go to China, things are going to be like this. And I'm not cherry-picking. Here's more videos. And this is okay. China's not a million years ahead of us. And that's fine. It shouldn't be hurting your feelings to say that there are flaws within your system or that things aren't running so smoothly. In fact, I think there's some beauty in the imperfection of things. And that is the reason why civilizations can improve and we can learn from our mistakes. But for what the CCP's mentality as it instills into its propaganda department, or a deliberate attempt, you could call it, is this idea that everything is so ahead and so perfect in China that, look at us, we built this. We did so well for the Chinese people. And before we continue, I'll let the other David tell you something important. Dear China Insider viewers, this August, I'm heading to Forest City in Malaysia, a haunting symbol of China's real estate crisis. For a 7-day investigation, I'll be exploring the ghost city and speaking and interviewing with people in Malaysia and Singapore about the Chinese crisis in its real estate, politics, as well as the general perception in Southeast Asia. My goal is to expose the growing influence of the Chinese Communist Party there. Your support will make this journey possible, powering China Insider to deliver unfiltered and bold truth. So why am I going? Well, it's probably the only place outside of China where we can witness the entirety of the Belt and Road Initiative from its rise to the downfall, the decade of Xi Jinping's ambition, and possibly witness the beginning and the end of the CCP's economic might. I am once again asking for your financial support. Sorry, that was my best Bernie impersonation. But in all seriousness, by donating, you become the driving force behind our mission with China Insider going to Southeast Asia. And here is how you can join us. While we're so grateful for any amount of donation that you can provide to us for this journey, if you donate $15, you will receive a personalized thank you letter from me. By donating $35, you receive a personalized thank you letter from me and exclusive behind-the-scenes photos of this trip, which will capture moments you'll never see anywhere else. By donating $65, you will get a digital book packed with outtakes, unseen footage, and my personal reflection, offering a raw, insider look into the ghost city and all of its former glory. It also includes all of the $35 tier donation rewards. And if you donate $100 or more, you will receive exclusive, never-for-sale merchandise from China Insider specifically tailored for this trip, which is a unique keepsake for our top supporters, plus all of the previous tier rewards. Your generosity will fund the equipment, travel, and production of this trip, and we just can't thank you enough for sticking with us for the journey so far, and we hope to bring you all of the best stories around China, and this trip definitely will be one that's worth remembering, so join us on the journey and donate today. They're trying to sell their regime as a package. And this package is to say that the CCP is the Chinese people and the Chinese people loves the CCP. It completely ignores the intelligence as well as creativity as well as the culture and the aspects that belong to the Chinese civilization. And in turn, they say that without us, China would have been in chaos. China would have been defeated. China would have lost everything. And that was their whole MO, which is to constantly rewrite things. Take this news, for example. Recently, someone on the internet found out that China apparently employs, at least some of their internet companies employ a propaganda army to rewrite things on Wikipedia. On July 14th, an internet user discovered that 1,539 Chinese IPs from Baidu, which is like the Chinese Google, and 360, these companies have been using these internet IPs to edit Wikipedia. And one single IP edited up to 417 times. Among this, the IP from Baidu, 180.76.13.11, had edited the entry negative nicknames for Xi Jinping. And additionally, this IP also edited the entry for Baidu. It's a perfect illustration for how much they care about their image, which is, it's a crafted, curated image. It's not one that's reflected from the actual authenticity or the representation that they get from an organic source. Some of the other ridiculous ones I've even heard before is like how they would fake this propaganda and send it out to a foreign journalist or foreign publication and then invite it back. They call it they call it importing. They export the source of it and then they import it back to China to legitimately justify it as a foreign source when they're the ones who manufacture it in the first place. This happened a lot during COVID, actually. Remember how they made up this fake Swedish scientist named Wilson Edwards? And it was so sad because the Swedish government actually came out and fact-checked them like, this happened. So they then created this whole fake Swedish scientist persona, I believe it was on Facebook, and then they just ran with it. That's how crazy they are. That explains the real reason, or I guess one of the major reasons why tofu drag construction still exists in China. They don't care, not because they're like, hey, this is a real issue, we gotta address it. They don't care because they're just like, we'll just pretend it doesn't exist. So what they've done is never fundamentally solved it, because when you criticize the lack of construction integrity, the answer isn't like, wow, we should look into it. You know, we should make some laws or we should try to address the issue. Officially they do, but that's for propaganda reasons. But for the vast majority of it, they don't. And then what you get for pointing this out is, oh, you're defaming China. Oh, you're cherry picking. You want China to fail. You're jealous of the Chinese developments, etc. China's literally perfect. It's so perfect that a small earthquake can tear the walls in this building. This video is from March this year in the southern Yunnan province. The homeowners say that earthquake wasn't very strong, and yet on the day of purchase, they claimed that the building met the highest seismic standards, and during handover, the management confidently assured that there was no issue with the houses. So perfect that this road, freshly paved on July 12th, would easily deteriorate before cars even go on it. Now you can pick apart the rocks used, and that's not supposed to happen. So perfect that this one in the region of Inner Mongolia, after rainfall, the pavement underneath the bricks hollowed out, just cannot stand any water. And so perfect that the visible portion of a bridge in Sichuan province, you see the surface cement here of this load-bearing pillar. This bridge is called Hongxing Bridge, by the way. It just started to peel off, and we see that there's corroded steel rebars being exposed. So perfect the constant rotten unfinished buildings, the roofs that crack like that. Roads that were built with just a tiny thin layer of cement on top, the rest of it is just dirt. And the price of exposing this is that some people get punished for it. If you try to post this video online, the authorities will ask you to take it down. And if you don't, they might start to, if it's very severe and damaging to their reputation, they will start to disappear you. When things go south and people's lives are on the line, well, it's already too late. This talk of greed and cutting corners isn't just a greed issue. It's simply, they literally don't care about the people. In this video here, you see the stone fencing, it fell over. But look at how short the steel rebar is. It just doesn't extend all the way through the center of each fence, or the picket or the stone pillar part. No wonder it fell over. And one part where I have a lot of problems with the shelling for the CCP is when they say, I want to tell or they want to tell the China story well, they ignore one of the fundamental reality in China, which is that Chinese people are living in such terrible states, but you have to pretend like everything is perfect. This video has gone viral recently. A construction worker eats his lunch, which consists of a bun, a stalk of scallion, and a cucumber and some peppers. In a restaurant in America, maybe they will call this the ingredients for a salad. In China, it's the ingredients for misery and sadness. Honestly, I find it that it's the small things that really reflect the integrity of a nation. You can see this when you go visit a country. How people behave, it's clearly a reflection of their contemporary culture. This couple in the video, they're in their 80s. They've been seeking to petition with the local government for 6 days now. One's sleeping on the floor, the other one is sitting. No one has come out to help them. And this is a representation of hundreds of thousands of other cases that happen across the country. And this type of video, they won't appear on the feed of a CCP shell because it challenges the narratives too much. I'm not arguing the socioeconomic part either. Obviously, we recognize that already in China, half of the country is still living in poverty, and that this is a normal thing that you see often in towns or in smaller cities, and that this still happens. But what I am arguing is the fact that this is never talked about for the sole reason that China needs to be perfect on the outside. What they often do is show one or two major cities or the city center or the most touristy areas and then try to use that to over-justify or to over-represent the rest of the country. Honestly, I'm even fine with them doing that because that's just the nature of propaganda. But what I really think honestly is happening is that they've tried to be the ostrich head stuck in the sand for so long that it's like, if I don't see it, it's fine, nobody else would see it, that they're neglecting this for so long that eventually one day it's going to blow up. But in the process, it's like deliberately ignoring it just becomes funny because you have all of these videos every single day that get posted in Chinese social space or on Western social spaces, whatever the case may be, that they just choose to ignore to say that, oh, it doesn't happen in my city. You know, I live in China, it doesn't happen here. You know, that's like me saying that I live in America right now, and there's nothing wrong with the country. It's 100% perfect. There's no crimes, there's no homelessness, there's no issues with debt, there's nothing wrong with the genders or culture issues. It's a perfect country, you know, as long as I don't see it, right? If I just stay in my little apartment and I don't badmouth the government, I don't do anything, it's gonna be fine. I'll just live by myself and enjoy my beautiful country that has to offer everything for me. You know, it's like, it doesn't make sense. That's not how it works. And people are always asking me, oh, why don't you cover the United States like this? Why are you not an American insider? But look, there's plenty of news that you can find when you Google about America that makes you think, wow, this country sucks, you know? So there's plenty of that. But what I am concerned about is how these Western faces are exploring and you know, reporting on China, or that they're showing us the real China. These people, they hold a foreign passport and they still get to enjoy, at the end of the day, what their original nationality or the country that they were born has to offer for them. So they can shell for the CCP, no problem. And the fact that they live in China, they never talk about anything negative with the government, like not some fake criticisms, like there's not enough trash cans in the city, or that the subway station has no ramen noodle shop. Not something like disingenuous like that, but I'm talking about genuine criticisms. They can't do that. I can go around, sure, I can go to New York and I can actually say stuff that are bad about the city, which everybody already knows already. Anyways, let's continue with some recent news that won't definitely get covered by those kind of channels. For example, a high school student was fired for sweating too much. He was only paid for 10 yuan for 4 hours of work. That's about $1.40. And this happened on July 10th. Several high school students in Changsha, Hunan province were fired after unloading packages at Shenton Express station for 4 hours. But because they were sweating too much, the originally promised wage of 200 yuan for 11 hours was reduced to just 10 yuan per person for the travel expenses. 200 yuan for 11 hours is already bad. That's the equivalent of about 28 USD. A high school student from the United States or Canada maybe can work the cash register at KFC or McDonald's and make that in 2 to 3 hours, probably even less now with a hike in the minimum wage. And you're telling me that these kids sweating for 11 hours, and by the way, those kids in McDonald's and KFC, they get air conditioning, they get proper breaks, you know, free food or drinks maybe, and these kids sweating too much in probably a factory that doesn't have air conditioning, maybe a fan, maybe not. Likely not have food, maybe there's a cafeteria, who knows. But the point is, it's not the same. And they just got booted for sweating too much. And in this video, the building's fire hose weren't connected to water, and this caused major financial loss during a building fire. The local department, the fire department, repeatedly called this man to asking him to delete the videos. Obviously, he refused, but it just shows you that rather than solving the issue with the water hose, they're like, you have to delete the video. Unlike in the West, where there's an election every few years to solve some of the unsatisfied or dissatisfaction with the current system or the government, in China, you simply don't get a choice. People don't even know who their people's representatives are, how they were elected. They don't get any of that. You know, they say there's democracies in China. Well, who did you vote for? Nobody. You don't get to vote. And so they came up with 11 or 12 different forms of democracies. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because let's just take one simple case to understand that it's all fake democracies. This man, his name is Peng Lifa. He was secretly disappeared after putting up banners at the Sitong Bridge in Beijing in October of 2022. Put up in those banners include stop the COVID lockdowns, democratization, no dictatorships, etc. Now, these, apparently you can criticize the government, but if you're a man who put up these banners, well, you get secretly disappeared on the same day. After 3 years, we have learned that he allegedly got a 9-year sentence for simply putting up banners. The CCP will tell you that everybody in China loves Xi Jinping, that he has such a high support. Well, yeah, if you go and survey these people and tell them, hey, whether you like Xi Jinping or not, if you say no, if you say yes, that's great, we'll put it down. But if you say no, well, depending on how much influence you have, maybe we'll have to take you to the jail or send you to a prison camp. With all that being crafted out, of course you're going to see a perfect China. Of course, when you talk to a CCP shell, they're going to say, wow, look, China has such a high rate of support for their government and their party, or that Chinese people all love the CCP. Yeah, because everybody else got disappeared already. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this topic, and subscribe and like this video if you haven't already. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.